Hello, my name is Jackson, and today we're gonna talk about the S/4HANA sourcing and procurement innovations highlights. First of all, it's important to mention that this is not a complete course in covering all the chains of S/4HANA sourcing and procurement, but just a highlight of the main chains. To analyze better each change and how these impact your S/4HANA environment and implementation, you need to check the document of simplification list. We will talk about the simplification list and how to consult the changes in this document in some next video. The first topic about the S/4HANA sourcing and procurement main innovations is the streamlined P2P process. We talked a little bit in the last video about the new process of S/4HANA sourcing procurement. I will not go deep about that because we already talked in the last video. But here we will have a new end-to-end process and each capabilities related to this process. That's end-to-end process. It's operation procurement, inventory and warehouse management, invoice and payables management, sourcing and contract management, and finally supplier information and master data. The innovations for sourcing and procurement in SAP S/4HANA On-Premise Edition include the following: the SAP Fiori apps for operational purchasing, buyer, manager, employee, and accounts payable accounting, business network integration, that is a real integration for purchase order, invoice creation, creating the sourcing, contracting, all the documents that came from the Ariba, from our vendors. The self-service requisitioning, that's the catalog. You can use catalogs for buying your products. And supplier and the category management, that we have new category that's used to separate your purchasing categories of materials that you are buying for analysis, and real-time analytics. So there are a lot of new reports and KPIs that you can use in S/4HANA. And finally, search and object pages that were created for procurement overview. Object pages that show, for example, data, documents that were created in S/4HANA. Moving forward, for the other major simplifications relevant for procurement in S/4HANA, we can highlight the business partner approach. The customer and vendor master data will not be available anymore in S/4HANA, but we're gonna use the business partner that will join the both master data in one single entity, single address for the customer and for vendors. We will not have a transaction specific for vendor or customer creation modification like we have in ECC. Now we have BP transaction that you can choose the roles and groups, account groups, etc. You can select the business partner that you want to create. That can be an organization, a person, or a company. It's important to mention that the transactions like XD01, XD02, VD01, XKey01, MKey01, all transactions for creation or extension, change customer and vendor will not be available anymore. Call for these transactions, you're gonna be redirected for the BP transaction. Also, there are simplification in analytics. Now we have the embedded analytics that basically are reports that you can use inside your current transactions to analyze your purchasing data, performance, vendor, all this stuff. So there are a lot of reports and KPIs, like I said. Also, there is another change for purchase order output management. So the old output management NAST will be replaced by BRF Plus, that it's accessible for the customers. In SAP S/4HANA, the target architecture is based on Adobe document servers and Adobe Formers only. Also, this purchase new output management need to be activated in your customizing. There is a change for the trade services. GTS, SAP Global Trade Services, will replace the foreign trade. So currently there are two software solutions for international trading transactions, the foreign trade and the GTS. So the SAP GTS is an external service that can be installed in a separate instance only for interstate data. Customer can leverage functionality within SAP S/4HANA. Additional funds for import and export management are available with SAP GTS. Moving forward for the next slide, so the MEB transactions are obsolete in SAP S/4HANA, like MEB01, MEB02. There are a lot of transactions MEB in the old systems, ECC, and now all these transactions will not be used in S/4HANA. So instead you use these transactions, you're gonna use the MIGO, that's the enjoy transaction, already available in ECC, and that cover all these material movements that you use in these old systems. If you enter in these transactions, you have a message that it's obsolete and the SAP note to consult all this information. In SAP S/4HANA, we have a simplified data model for material document. So this part of simplified data model for the material document, we're gonna detail better in the next slides. Also, the material ledger, now it's obligatory for material valuation. For some countries, this was already obligatory, but now in S/4HANA, this was the chosen type of the material valuation that all the companies will need to use, and this allows to evaluate the materials in different currencies. So there are some advantages to use the material ledger. If you do not use, you need to activate it for your system conversion. Another change is there is no statistical moving average price for materials with price control standard. In a classic SAP Business Suite, the system calculates for materials with price control standard, also a moving average valuation in parallel. So it's called statistical moving average price. The statistical valuation requires exclusive locking. This exclusive locking is limiting the transactional data throughput and therefore will be avoided in SAP S/4HANA. If you are using this field of statistical moving average pricing for materials, you need to adapt to do not use anymore for pricing control standard in your system S/4HANA. Regarding changes for material master, in S/4HANA, the maximum field length of material number is extended from 18 to 40 characters. The appropriate related SAP development entities like domains, structures, table types, and transparent tables, external and internal interface, and so on, have been adapted accordingly. If you want to activate this in your S/4HANA system, you need to change the customizing to activate. You need to be aware, for example, if you use in some developments the material code to concatenate with another code, for example, you need to review all your code to adapt for this new length of field of material number. Also, if you have external systems, you need to check if all the systems have the same standard of use this new length 40 characters, right? The BAPIs and all the developments for the new systems, SAP already adapted with the new characters if you want to use. The new material type serves for services introduced for product master in S/4HANA for simplification purpose. In customized details for the material types, you can find a new product type group which defines if it's a material or a services. Supported user department as follows: accounting, purchasing, basic data, and sales. So for this new material type for services, you have all the tabs or the departments that you are used to use for materials, because you don't need to use all these departments. So SAP is doing and giving you only the necessary departments to simplify. If you want to use, it's a new option. It's important to remember that web Pro applications for material management will be not longer available with S4HANA. So if you are using today, you need to see the new applications in Fiori to adapt for your users to instead use web Pro applications, use the new applications in SAP Fiori. Also, the classic purchase transactions are obsolete. So all the transactions like ME51, ME52, without the N in the final, the N letter, this will be obsoleted and you can't use anymore if you are using nowadays. For supply invoice, there are some transactions. We'll need to use the Marl instead of these old transactions. These transactions are replaced in the newest versions of ECC. Now we're gonna talk about the new model for inventory management tables. SAP have simplified a lot the tables for S4HANA related to inventory management. Just to remember, in SAP ERP there are two document tables for material document, MEKPF and MSEG, which contains business transaction and following data information. So in SAP ECC, there are 26 tables containing inventory aggregates for two material master tables, MARC and MARD, for example. There are 11 tables for particular stock types, and finally there are 13 tables for historic stock figures. The data model for inventory management in SAP ERP Central Component was built based on material document, hybrid, aggregate, and story tables. Hybrid, aggregate, and story tables had redundant information, as the sum of the data stored in the material document tables could return the same information without having it saved on the database. So all these tables, a lot of tables, make confusion, also influence the performance of the systems, and it's too hard to control the changes in each table and have a synchronization of the stock quantity in so many tables. This large number of tables in data model would often result in low performance stock reporting due to the amount of information that have to be evaluated in order to display the stock figures. On the top of that, locks on the database due to update operations along with another locks from business operations could occur when working with the tables of the old data model. So basically SAP for this new S4HANA systems created the MatDoc table that now contains both header and item data for material documents. The hybrid tables like MARC and MARD still exist, but they only hold master data information. All stock information displayed during a select of these tables is calculated on the fly. The MatDoc extract table is used to speed up the summarization of MatDoc table during the on-the-fly calculation of stock figures. Now in this slide we can see a simulation of the old tables comparing with the new model. So let's see, here we can see the material quantities, the material document, invert movements tables, the aggregate tables, the hybrid tables that have master data with stock information, the story tables, that basically is the same table but with historic information, And here the material values informations for material valuation, like MBU, the story of these related tables, and the tables for the valuation, for CO valuation of the material. So let's see how it's now in the S4HANA systems. So as you can see, it's much more simple data model with less tables, and these have a lot of advantages for performance, for searching, select the data, and make more simple. All these tables that we're using for material valuation, now it's only for master data. These ones too, it's only master data. We don't have a lot of tables for historic, the table, and hybrid. And there is a new material document, matchdoc and matchdoc extract, that we use for speeding up the performance. Summary today, you should now be able to understand the S4HANA sourcing and procurement main innovations and have an overview of these changes in the new S4HANA systems. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe our YouTube channel, like this video, and thank you, and see you next time.